Montgomery County. So when you list property in Montgomery County, or when you're buying, one of the disclosures or the main disclosure that you're going to see will be what's called the REA, Regulations, Easements, and Assessments Disclosure and Addendum. So let's start off with the notice to the buyer and the seller. It says this disclosure / addendum should be completed by the seller and shall be available to prospective buyers prior to making a purchase offer and will become part of the sales contract for the sale of the property. The information contained herein is the representation of the seller. So the last thing you want to do is fill this out yourself. Give it to your client. Be there with your client to help them fill it out if you need to. However, this is something that your client needs to provide. You don't want to fill it in to the best of your knowledge because your client has asked you to fill it out. You definitely don't want to do that. Since the content in this form is not all inclusive and the paragraph headings this agreement are for convenience and reference only and in no way define the limit or limit the intent, rights, or obligations of the parties. Please be advised that the websites, this information here can change, is what it's telling you. So right away.
Anh ngồi trong kia, ngồi bên đây nó chịu sẵn rồi chịu.
Number one is talking about the disclosure disclaimer. Another form you don't want to fill out yourself. Says a property owner may be exempt from the Maryland Residential Property Disclaimer Act that's defined in Maryland Residential Property Disclosure and Disclaimer Statement. So Maryland has an option to disclose or disclaim. So this is a decision your client will take whether to disclaim or disclose on this form. And there are exceptions, those who are selling property on behalf of the estate, REO, sheriff's tax sale, those are exempt from property disclaimer / disclosures. And you would identify here whether or not the form is included. Smoke detectors. I do have a link that I'm going to share with you regarding smoke detectors. So if you go to the chat box, I'm going to share this link with you. So there's the link for this chart here, and it'll explain to you what the rules are effective January 1, 2018. And again, can everybody see this form?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the chart. Homes built prior to 1957. So just make sure you have this available. Show it to your clients so that they understand what the requirements are for this. It says Maryland requires that all smoke alarms be less than 10 years from the date of manufacture. Also, battery only operated smoke alarms must be sealed and units incorporating the silent / hush button along and long life batteries. So make sure you're sharing that information with your clients. And the link that I gave you is this right here, this PDF. Moderately priced dwelling unit is the property part of the moderately priced dwelling unit program in Montgomery County, City of Rockville, or the City of Gaithersburg, yes or no? So when you're listing a property, or sometimes you'll come across a property that's priced really low, and you're thinking, well, this is unusual. Sometimes they're part of this program where a builder has designated or has been required to designate part of the development to moderately priced dwelling unit. And these are affordable housing opportunities that have limitations on income for qualifying to purchase them. You got to be part of this program, and owning that property also means that the price is not going to go up as the prices around you, because it's got to stay low as it is, to be kept part of the program. And it says, if initial offering is after March 20, 1989, the prospective buyer and seller should contact the appropriate jurisdictional agency to ascertain the legal buying and selling restrictions on the property. Rate on disclosure, this is something that is unique to Montgomery County. And so this is the link that I am going to share with you. So that way you have this information. Again, if you look in the chat box, I have that link there so you can just download it. Buying a home. As of October 1, 2016, county law requires that single-family home located in the county must be tested for radon before completing a sale of the home. This requirement contained in Chapter 40 of the County Code is as amended by County Bill 31-15. Where does the law apply? The radon testing requirement applies throughout the county, except in the town of Barnesville, the City of Rockville, and town of Kensington, as well as Poolsville. So if you're listing property in the City of Rockville, you don't need to have this. This is not a requirement for you. So it is very likely that you're going to come across this and not, it does not require that you make the disclosure if the property is in the town of Rockville. Who must do the radon test? I'm sorry, what homes must be tested? Law requires the test in single-family homes, which includes detached single-family homes and townhomes, except those in units that are a condominium regime or corporate housing corporation. In addition, the law does not apply if the sale of the home is exempt from the transfer tax under Maryland Tax Property Code 13-207 as amended by a lender. So those exempt are the ones that are also exempt from doing the property disclaimer / disclosure. And in the town of Rockville and the areas that we mentioned previously. And again, if it's a townhouse, you have to provide it as well. However, if it's a townhouse style condo, you don't have to. If it's a condo type of ownership, you don't need to provide the radon test results. Law requires the seller to perform a radon test or permit the buyer to perform a radon test. If the seller offers the buyer the opportunity to do the test and the buyer chooses not to, the seller must perform the test to meet the statutory requirements that a test be performed. Both the seller and the buyer must receive a copy of the results of the radon test. The test may be done by the seller, buyer, or third party using an approved testing device. When must it be performed? In order to comply with the law, a radon test must be performed up to 1 year prior to settlement date. The test must be done with an approved testing device. So if you're working with a buyer, don't assume that that, you know, a test is a radon result is automatically due to you, and that or that if it comes in high, rather, that the seller has to remediate. Unless it is a contingency in the contract, the seller owes that buyer the results only, no remediation. So if you're working with the buyer and they want to test for radon, and they intend and their intention is to, you know, get the proper remediated if their levels are high, then you got to put that in as a contingency if you're going to ask the seller to pay for it. And again, the exemptions are if the property is not a single family home, transfers between family members. Again, the exemptions we already went over. Availability of water and sewer service. Existing water and sewer service refer to the seller's water bill or contact WSCC. As part of the disclosures, you're going to have information on the water bill, hopefully by the seller. It is not really a requirement in Montgomery County. You know, they are to provide you, you know, a monthly disclosure of what the utilities are. But you're not necessarily going to see the bill itself. So just, you know, if you need more information, you got to reach out to WSSC. Well, and septic, contact the Department of Permitting, Service and DPS, well and septic. I think I have that in here. DPS, here you go. So this is where you would check for information on well and septic. I'm going to go ahead and include that in the chat box as well. And you can get more information here on this, on a particular property. Further down, the seller is going to have to put in information with the property, whether water property is connected to the public water is connected to the property, and if no, has it been approved for connection to public water? Sewer, is the property connected to the public sewer system? And then, you know, if the answer is no, then you have to fill these out on the bottom. By signing below, the buyer acknowledges that prior to signing the contract, the seller has provided the information referenced above, or has informed the buyer that the seller does not know the information referenced above. The buyer further understands that to stay informed of future changes in county and municipal water and sewer plans, the buyer should consult the county planning board or any appropriate municipal planning or water and sewage services. There is a website also. Let me see. This website, Montgomery Planning. It says choose a variety of interactive map viewers designed to make the view in specific topical areas. So you have zoning maps, environmental maps, Montgomery County trends reports, addressing, association finder, bicycle street map, bikeways, DAIC, search and view development project descriptions, maps, plans, progress, and more. Demographics Explorer, development database. This one, again, if you're working in Montgomery County, or if you have a buyer that is asking you for information on, you know, you know, where the schools are better, and, you know, you can send them, say, you know, this is the information from Montgomery County, look it up here, and they'll be able to, you know, to navigate through here and get the information that they're looking for. So if you look at the chat box, I share that link with you. So the buyer's going to have to endorse and date this form right here. City of Tacoma Park. If this property is located in Tacoma Park self-disclosure must be attached. So this is a different, in addition to this, you're going to have to attach a GCAAR Tacoma Park self-disclosure to your disclosures. If this is part of a homeowners association, you have to indicate here whether it's an HOA or a condo association. And you also have, you know, homeowners/civic association without dues. You have to put that on here. Underground storage tanks. For information regarding underground storage tanks and procedures for their removal or abandonment, contact the Maryland Department of Environment or visit, and it gives you the website. Does the property contain an unused underground storage tank? Yes, no, or unknown. The website for underground storage tanks, let's see. So there is some information here regarding the management of these tanks. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. If the answer is that the property has unused underground storage tank, if the answer is yes, it says explain when, where, and how it was abandoned. If you know, if it's still there and the seller's just saying, no, it's there, we've never done anything about it, understand that now you have that knowledge and that you are supposed to dispose of it in the environmentally appropriate manner. So you gotta have the right people getting. You can't just dig it out. You gotta abandon it the appropriate way. So either that seller does it, or know that your buyer's going to have to do it upon closing within 30 days. It's what the rules are. You know, this is knowledge that you have now. It's, you know, is this going to get out? And, you know, no, like no one's going to come knocking your door and say, hey, it's 30 days since you've found out that you have underground storage tank on your property. But the rules are that, you know, within 30 days after becoming aware that that needs to be properly disposed. So again, underground storage tanks is something that you need to be on top of. Look at that disclosure, see if there's, you know, if it does exist, and figure out how is this going to be taken care of. Deferred water and sewer assessments. Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission, or WSSC, or your local jurisdiction. Are there any front foot benefit charges or deferred water and sewer charges which the buyer may become liable, which do not appear on the attached property tax bill? So this is in addition to what's on your tax bill. If you have, if on your tax bill says that there's a front foot benefit or what, you know, taxes for this, you know, this is not what it's asking. It's asking in addition to that, is there like a private company that that you have to pay that maybe, you know, was used to put in sewage in your community, and there might be a front foot benefit that you got to pay every month or once a year, whatever the case may be.
Ernesto.
Yes.
A question. What if you have a seller that doesn't know that there is an underground storage tank? How do you, is there a way that you can find out if there is an underground storage tank, even if the seller doesn't know?
Yeah, you know,
maybe, sorry.
Yeah. I think there's a website, and I had it up the other day, where you can see where there are. Let me see if I can So let me go back to the form. I think you can. Let's see. I think there is one, but if your seller doesn't know, you can put that your seller doesn't know.
Okay.
That is one of the options here. And maybe the seller doesn't know, you know, maybe they've never been asked this question before. So you can put unknown on here. Private utility company, are there any deferred water and sewer charges paid to a private utility company which do not appear on the property tax bill? Yes or no? Effective October 1, 2016, required by Maryland law regarding deferred water and sewer charges. This property is subject to a fee assessment that purports to cover or defray the cost of installing or maintaining during construction all or part of the water or wastewater facilities constructed by the developer. And you have to put information about this fee. Again, this is, you know, this is something that would be outside of your tax bill. It says if a seller subject to this disclosure fails to comply with the provisions of this section prior to settlement, the buyer shall have the right to rescind the contract and to receive a full refund of all deposits paid on account from the contract. But the right of rescission shall terminate 5 days after the seller provides the buyer with the notice in compliance with this section. So let's say you forgot to disclose this, and you're 2 weeks into the contract, you've got another 3 weeks to go. You got to make this disclosure, right? So the buyer is going to have 5 days to rescind the contract, or work something out, But after those 5 days, if they haven't done anything about it, then you're good to go. If following settlement, the seller shall be liable to the buyer for the full amount of any open lien or assessment. So if the seller willingly withheld that information from the buyer, and it is found out after settlement, that seller is going to be responsible for the full amount. Now we're looking at special protection areas, SPA. I have a link for that as well, so let me see if I can share that with you. So if we go to the chat box, you'll find the link. Special protection area is an area designated by the Montgomery County Council within a watershed where streams, wetlands, and related natural features of very high quality, and where special measures over and above standard environmental laws, regulations, and guidelines must be applied to land development and to ascertain land uses in order to protect the quality, the high quality conditions of these natural features. So that's what an SPA is. And you'll have, again, I shared this link with you. You're going to have additional links on there if you want to look for into this a little bit more. So how can I determine if a property is in an SPA? This website contains adequate information to determine whether most properties are inside or outside an SPA. Simply locate your property on the county map, click on the closest SPA map, and determine whether the property is inside or outside its boundaries. So let me see. So you have some of the areas here in Montgomery County. You've got Upper Paint Branch, Piney Branch, portion of Ten Mill Creek, Clarksburg, Upper Rock Creek. And you can click on that, and it'll tell you, you'll be able to find out whether or not you're within those within the map. Property taxes. This is another disclosure that you need to make. And again, these disclosures are to be uploaded to the MLS. or some, or send them to the agent before they write the offer. Each property in Montgomery County, Maryland is assessed for annual real estate taxes based on several different components. A copy of the tax bill will reflect which categories and components are applicable to this property, including whether the property is located in a municipality, a special taxing district, a development district, or a proposed development district, and or whether this property is subject to a special area tax or any WSCC front foot benefit charges. So let's go to that website. So this is where you can get a copy of your tax bill. Account number, street address. Let me first share this link with you on the chat box. So you put the address in, and here it is. You click on the account number. So here's your tax bill. You print this to PDF, and then you make this one of your disclosures. And let's see, it'll say what the property tax here, county tax, solid waste charge, water quality protection charge, and then there is a county property tax credit of $692 on this property, which brings down your $6,600 tax bill to $5,900. So again, you click on that link that I put on the chat box. Now this is the estimated real property tax and other non-tax charges. So let's see what that looks like. Notice that it looks a little bit different. It doesn't have the credit. It says the owner's name, the tax address, tax class, refuse R. Let's see, description. So the estimated taxes are $66.59 and aren't going to really change. It says real property estimated tax and other non-tax charges in the first full fiscal year of ownership. So this is, if you were to, this is what you should expect, first full year of ownership if you were to buy this house. Rent friendly. And then this is what it looks like. And you upload that to your disclosures. I'm going to go ahead and share that link with you as well. Again, this is the proposed taxes. The estimated taxes, sorry. Your buyer would have to live right here. Development district disclosure, notice of special tax or assessment. Development district is a special taxing district in which owners of properties pay an additional tax or assessment in order to pay for public improvements within the district. Typically, development district special tax increase approximately 2% each July. For some information regarding, please contact, let's see, the Montgomery County Department of Finance regarding development district. And it can be viewed here. Let's take a look at that. development district amendments, who is responsible for providing the disclosure, the seller of real property located in development tax district. Where does the disclosure need to be made? In the sales contract, advertisement, sales brochure, signs, or other material. What information needs to be disclosed? See where the penalties for not properly disclosing. Any contract which does not disclose all required information is voidable at the option of the buyer before the date of settlement. The Office of Consumer Protection can also take action to enforce any violation of this law. So again, make that disclosure if you're in a special tax district. Is the property located in an existing development tax district, or is it in a proposed? So existing, proposed, or is it not? You know, most likely you won't be in a development tax district. Tax benefit programs. The property may currently be under a tax benefit program that has deferred taxes due on transfer, or may require legally binding commitment from the buyer to remain in the program, such as, but not limited to. So some of the options here are forest conservation and management program, agricultural program, or other tax benefits. The property may be in one of these, and you get a savings on property taxes. And it may require that buyer to stay within the program to keep the taxes that low. Recorded subdivision plat. Plats are available at the MNCPPC, and I'll give you the website actually, or the Judicial Center in Rockville. In order to obtain a plat, you will be required to supply a lot, block, section, of subdivision as applicable to the property. Plats are also available, and it gives you the website here, as well as the plats.net. And the buyer is supposed to acknowledge receipt of this plat. So let me show you. Get rid of this. This is a better way to get your plat. Montgomery County Atlas.org/plat. So let's say I want to sell one of these houses here. You know, you can just find it on the map. You can zoom in. I want to sell this house right here. So here's the plat already pulled up. You click on that. And there it is. There's the plat for the property that I want to sell. Save as, save PDF. I hope everybody can see that right here. So you've got, this is the plat that I am going to include on this property that I am going to list for sale. Again, the link is in the chat box. This is one that you want to save. If you're listing property in Montgomery County, you can just go to that website and pull it up. Agricultural reserve disclosure notice. The property is or is not part of the agricultural restrictions. Any conservation easements you would have to check off right here. Is it part of ground rent? You have areas I'll say Baltimore is probably one of the ones where you see this more often, but there are some areas in Montgomery County that are applicable to ground rent as well, and you'd have to include the ground rent addendum as part of it. Historic preservations, if the property is in a historic district, you've got to disclose that. And the buyer will have to sign off right here. This is something the seller has to fill out, whether or not it is, and then the buyer has to sign saying, I saw that and I'm okay with it, or a disclosure was made. Forest conservation law, the buyer is notified that the cutting, clearing, and grading of more than 5,000 square feet of forest and any champion tree on the property is subject to the requirements of the forest conservation law. The buyer is required to comply with the forest conservation law, chapter 22A of the Montgomery County Code. In order to assure compliance with the law, the buyer is notified of the need to contact the countywide environmental program division of the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, whether it means obtaining a written exemption from the forest conservation laws from what is this? The countywide environmental planning division or approval. Forest conservation is a seller represents and warrants the property is or is not currently subject to a recorded category 1 or category 2 conservation easement. There is also a disclosure of airports and heliports. And then you have the circles right here is where those heliports and airports are. And they're numbered down here at the bottom of page 7 and the top of page 8. Energy efficiency disclosure before signing a contract for the sale of single-family home. Sellers of Montgomery County property must provide buyers with the following information disclosure. Information about home energy efficiency improvements, including the benefit of conducting a home energy audit. Buyers should visit the following website for this information. It is also required a usage history. So your utilities. Has the buyer been owner occupant of the property for the immediate prior 12 months, yes or no? If the property has been owner occupied for any part of the past 12 months, the seller must provide copies of the electric, gas, and home heating or oil bills, or cost and usage history for single-family home for that time. So there is a form, a GCAAR utility cost and usage history form that you can fill out, or you can just have the bills and provide them to the potential buyer. So this is the what's called the REA for Montgomery County, and I've shared those links with you so that if you're listing a property, or if your buyer is looking to buy in Montgomery County and you want to send in more information about that area, you've got those links. There is something else that I wanted to share with you. I did want to go a little bit over. So Montgomery County has what's called the REA. Prince George's County has the DNA, which is the disclosures and notices addendum. And I'm going to go through this one fairly quick. Require in Prince George's County with separate attachment are the following. If it's part of a tree conservation easement, record title holder, is seller owner the record title holder, yes or no? If the seller owner does not presently hold title to the property, then you have to provide this form 1328. Special taxing district notice. If the property is located within the special tax district as defined by section 10-269 of the Property County Code, and subject to a special taxing district, then you must provide Form 1331 from GCAAR. Is it near an airport? Then you have that general aviation airport environment notice. It says that the property is located within a mile of public use / commercial use general aviation airport, then Form 1331 must be provided. Seller and buyer acknowledge that the failure of the seller to provide the required notices as applicable by under A, B, and C of the above intended, and the failure of the seller and buyer to sign and date such disclosures is a criminal misdemeanor, and failure of the seller to provide notices as identified in B and D of the above, if applicable, should entitle the buyer to rescind the contract. So if these aren't made, that buyer can walk away from that contract. Let's see, GCAAR, not GCAAR, but PGCAAR, Prince George's County Association of Realtors. If you're in Prince George's, there is a historic site resource district disclosure that you need to make if it's part of a historic district. Are there any unimproved roads that you need to disclose here? Land use zoning. It has a website that you can send your buyer to. Let's see. So this is the Prince George's County, Maryland Planning Department. This is great information. I'm going to share this link on the chat box so that you guys can have the link. Share it with your clients. Look in Prince George's County. Proximity of recreation facilities. Buyers acknowledges that if the property is adjacent to an existing or planned golf course or other recreational facility for the property may be subject to minor damages as a result of an operation of such facility, and that insurance against such damage is responsibility of the buyer. You know, right there in Fort Washington, there's a golf community. So this would be something that would be applicable to that potential buyer. Military installations. This section does not apply in Allegheny, Carroll, Frederick, Garrett, Howard, Montgomery, or Washington counties. Again, this is from Prince George's. You have Andrews Air Force Base there. Uncompleted community amenities. If you're in the new home community that has uncompleted amenities, you would have to disclose that on here and attach PGCAAR Form 1339. Prince George's County requires certain sellers of single-family residential real property defined as residential real property improved by 4 or fewer single-family units to provide on written request. So this is on written request copies of the electric, gas, and home heating oil bills as a document detailing the monthly electric, gas, and home heating oil usage of the residential property for the 12-month period before the property was first marketed for sale. If the seller did not occupy the single-family home for the entire 12 months, the seller must provide the buyer on written request with the required information for that part of prior 12 months, if any, that the seller has occupied single-family home. Carbon monoxide. Prince George's requires the seller or transfer or to install carbon monoxide detectors before or at the time of the transfer of ownership the following residences: 1 and 2 family residential dwellings. The requirements for installation and maintenance of carbon monoxide detector and existing 1 and 2 family. So it is required that the property have the carbon monoxide detectors. Proximity to agriculture and or forest conservation forestry operations. Let's see, Prince George's law. requires sellers of real property in the in this zones to provide statement advising the buyer of the following: buyer acknowledges the property offered for sale in the vicinity of a property that is or may be used for agricultural forestry operations. You know, as we see more and more development, you know, these disclosures are not something you're going to have to come across, but just be aware that if you're dealing in Montgomery County, in Prince George's County, that there is a proximity to agricultural land or forestry operations disclosure that you might need to make. Deferred water and sewer assessment from food benefit. The same applies to Prince George's County as we went over in Montgomery County. Private water and or sewer supply. Seller must answer these questions about public water and sewage service to the property. Any private utility assessments will be disclosed on here. Homeowner associations, any other assessments, any ground rent. We're going back here to underground storage tank. If underground storage tank, yes or no. If the seller's check, yes. Seller acknowledges that the tank is it in use or not in use? Seller further acknowledges that if the tank was in use for you know, whatever type of oil, if the seller has checked that the tank is not in use, please explain when and where and how the tank was abandoned. Again, if it's not, you know, if it's still there and, you know, the seller's saying, yes, there is an underground storage tank, it wasn't abandoned, you got to come to an agreement as to what's going to happen at settlement or before settlement. Mount Vernon Historic View Shed is checked yes by the seller pursuant to Prince George's County Code, Subtitle 2, Administration, Section 2-162.01. Seller hereby notifies buyer that the property being transferred is located within the Mount Vernon Historic District View Shed. Buyer acknowledges that such buyer is aware that there is a recorded scenic easement from the National Park Service. So if your property, if you can see Mount Vernon from your side, Prince George's County, you might not be able to develop much around there because it is a protected area. Smoke alarm notice, same rules. Municipalities, if the property is located within a municipality, name that municipality right here. Rental license requirement. Prince George's County is pretty strict with rental licenses, and there are heavy fines. So if your buyer is purchasing an investment property and they're going to put it up for, make sure they understand that they need to get a license. Otherwise, this may be, you know, it says buyers shall be subject to penalty in the amount of $1,000 per month for any portion thereof during which the rental facility was operated and or occupied without a valid rental license. So that they're pretty strict on that. Short-term rentals. In the event buyer intends to lease the property being purchased as a short-term rental or any portion thereof immediately following settlement. We're talking about Airbnb. The buyer acknowledges that the buyer is responsible to apply for that license. Transfer taxes, exemptions, you know, classroom teacher, police officer, deputy, you know, if you have a veteran, they might be exempt from that. So make sure you're looking into this tax exemptions if it applies to your client. Notice failure to comply with certain provisions of this addendum, including but not limited to 3, 4, 11, 19, shall enable the party to contract who is aggrieved by such failure to rescind the contract. So if you're not making these disclosures, that buyer can walk. So, you know, make sure you're going over the entire form and you're making the required disclosures in Prince George's County as well as Montgomery County. Let's see. That's it for today. We've got 9 minutes left. Are there any questions that you guys might have about this disclosures in Montgomery County and in Prince George's County? Or any questions you have for me, I'm here to answer those.
So can I ask you a question?
Reba?
Yes, hi. So when we have an offer, we submit this disclosures to the sellers, right?
When you have an offer, so let me pull up a listing here. These disclosures, if you're putting an offer together, these disclosures should be available to you before you write the contract. So let's see. Let me just pull a random listing. So if you see on here, these are the disclosures. So when you get a listing, we want you to upload those to the MLS. So here are the disclosures. You have consent for dual agency. You have exclusions and inclusions on here. Notice the buyer and seller. Then you got the property disclosure disclaimer. These people decided to disclaim. And this is the REA.
Those are the listing agents should be uploaded on the listing,
Right. So you're supposed to get these. You're supposed to have these by the time you want to write the offer. Does that make sense, Reba?
Yes, thank you so much. So but if we are on the listing side, we have to have the seller sign this before
Before you go.
the listing goes on.
Yeah, you should, or at least before you get any offers, you got to provide them to the other side.
Thank you.
better off signing at the time of getting listing agreement, right?
The listing agreement should be synced with these forms.
Ernesto, after everybody's question, I want to ask you different than what contract question.
Okay. Somebody else, Jason, I see you.
Yeah, just real quickly, sorry, this is on the jurisdictional addendum. The first-time buyer, they get a credit or they get a break in the taxes. So there's a blank after that for state recordation and transfer tax. Is that where you write in the 50-50 split? That's customary. When it's a first-time buyer, is it different?
If it's no, it is normally 50-50, but the buyer gets a discount on their 50 split. It's reduced to like 25. And you don't need to have the that addendum unless you intend to ask for more than the 50-50 or something different.
Well, we have to use that addendum with any offer, right?
No, not necessarily. You check off on the contract if it's a first-time home buyer. You include that form if you intend to have anything different than 50-50.
Relax.
Okay, so that jurisdictional addendum is not required to go with the offer.
Jurisdictional addendums are required, yes.
What is it?
We're talking about the first-time home buyer addendum,
Okay, yeah, okay, so the first-time home buyer addendum is not required.
unless you intend to change that 50-50 split.
Okay, but in that blank, do we write in 50-50 split between buyer and seller, or do we just put nothing there?
You put nothing there.
We don't put anything?
No.
Okay,
Unless you want to have a seller pay whole thing.
I see what you're saying. So it's understood it's gonna be 50-50.
Right.
So I don't have to say 50-50 because it's already implied.
Correct.
Okay.
So Ernesto, can you explain a little bit about the tax that we do 50/50 in Maryland? That what is exactly, what type of tax is that we split 50/50?
Transfer tax, right?
Or it's a combination of transfer and recording tax, or just transfer tax?
Well, that's the whole thing. So,
Give me 1 second. I'm gonna pull it up.
Ernesto, is it frozen? No.
I'm sorry?
You didn't say anything her question, so I thought you might be frozen.
No, no, no. I'm actually looking for the,
Oh, Ernesto, do they have a specific a specific formula by county, how much that transfer tax or recordation tax altogether? Is there any formula for, I'm not so sure, I don't remember now, so long ago I did a transaction. Is that a percentage or per thousand, per certain amount per thousand, or just, what is it?
let me find this first. I'm gonna make sure I get
Okay.
this. Where we, it's not here, it's on. Transfer taxes. So it's in the Montgomery County jurisdictional addendum to the sales contract. So you would check off whether it is not a first-time home buyer or it is a first-time home buyer.
Okay.
And it says, unless otherwise negotiated in the contract or provided by state or local law, the cost of any recreation tax or any state or local recreation tax shall be shared equally between the buyer and the seller. Buyer and seller expressly agree that the cost of state recreation, in transfer tax, transfer local tax, tax be paid as follows. So you would put, if it's something other than 50/50, you would put it on here. It's like, seller to pay, 75% of it. So this is for a non-first-time home buyer. So again, unless otherwise negotiated in the contract or provided by state or local, the tax, the cost of recreation tax or any state or local regulation shall be shared equally between the buyer and the seller. Right? So unless stated anywhere. Buyer and seller expressly agree. So this is where you would agree to something different. So if you leave it blank, then you're doing 50/50. First-time home buyer. To qualify for first-time home buyer, each buyer must never own a property in Maryland or have been individuals that has been their principal residence. The property has to be owner occupied. The buyer or a co-buyer, grantor, mortgage, deed, trust, property, and co-maker guarantor will not occupy the property as a principal residence. So if you have somebody else that you're, that you're co-buying with, they're not going to use it as their primary residence. It says if a buyer is a first-time Maryland home buyer, the amount of state transfer tax due on the sale of the property is reduced from 50 to 25% and shall be paid by the seller. And under section 14-104C, the real property article, the entire amount of recreation tax and local county transfer tax will be paid by the seller unless, and this is very important, unless there is an express written agreement stating otherwise. And then it says buyer and seller expressly agree that the costs of state recreation tax and local transfer tax shall be paid as follows. And you would put something different on here. If you wanted something different than the 50-50 with the buyer getting their discount. Because if it continues on to say, and if you stop reading here, okay, well, the seller's paying everything. But it says here, buyer and seller expressly agree that payment of the recreation and local transfer tax shall be shared equally between buyer and seller unless the space provided above, right here, in the subparagraph is completed specifying a different express agreement. So you're agreeing to 50-50 on here with the buyer getting their first-time home buyer benefits.
So it's the combination of both tax. It's the recording tax and transfer tax and local tax 50-50.
Correct.
Acquisition tax then, it
And
is.
if you need a seller net sheet, go to Cardinal Title's website, and you can create a net sheet on there.
Mhm.
If you need to provide it for a listing, I have my Qualia account. I can go through my Qualia account and create a net sheet for my buyer and a net sheet for my seller, and it'll tell you what the taxes are for
Mhm.
each county.
Okay.
Is that an auto fill-in taxes? Different jurisdiction, different?
You put in the address and it pulls in the information. That
Oh, yeah, okay.
And where is that located again? You said
you
Cardinal
go,
Title?
Qualia.
let me see, Cardinal Title Group. Let's see.
Qualia is you have to have a contract to go in there, right? No,
No.
No, you don't.
no. When you go in there, at least I have contract.
CardinalTitleGroup.com. You could do this.
I want to go back that the transfer or recreation tax. If first-time home buyer have a 25% discount, if they don't, they say, okay, this is first-time home buyer. I want the seller to pay 75% of our transfer or recordation taxes. Then the first-time home buyer didn't even have to come out of pocket at all, right? If
Yeah,
they pay
I mean-
75%.
Yeah, you can agree to that.
Okay.
So I'm gonna log into Qualia here. And then, sorry, it's a little bit slow. Get a quote.
I want to just generally ask you a question. You do always sellers a net seat, Ernesto?
I'm sorry.
You always give a seller's net seat?
Yeah, it's easy. If you
Oh,
look,
I know. But today is easy. I have a nightmare story. Is after I heard that, I refused to doing it.
yeah. So closing disclosure and seller net sheet.
So
Okay.
you have in the Qualia.
Mhm.
Yeah,
When
you
you
go
have
to your Qualia account and you put in the property address.
Uh-huh. And price. If you have a contract, they can really get correct one, right? Contract price on the contract price.
Right, right.
Mhm.
Yeah, you can put the purchase price, the loan amount.
We have to. Today is, I think, because auto fear is tremendous on those, but olden days, a little bit farther back, well-known agent, huge, almost number 2 in the nation, almost number 2, one nation. Now he's gone. He did it wrong one time at the settlement, 8,000 shortage. It must be house, so he had to pay his own money out.
Hmm.
So there's always mandatory to do the net seed. It's
It is
not.
It is not mandatory, but I think your client would want to know what the fees are. So again, this is easy to create a net sheet here.
Yeah.
Right. Now, today's, yes.
So yeah, and this is, again, this is from Cardinal Title.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
is
Appreciate
Is
that.
Qualia good? We can get any this code on any properties or only the properties that we have a file with?
You mean on the contract?
On the contract, yeah.
Yeah, you can get it for any property.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, because like this one, this is just a listing that I have, and you can share it with your clients directly from here. So you can send it directly from here. It's great. I had a client that wanted to buy a house and sell her house, so I was able to just provide her what the fees were.
Right.
Yeah.
Immediately. I didn't have to pull out a calculator. It was done here. So.
So now, when you don't have that in front of you, if you're talking to, say, what is my net will be? You just roughly, when I do in Virginia wise, when I do commission plus the approximate cost of a settlement cost without thinking of any seller subsidy, then I tell approximately what percentage it will be minus from sales price. That's just pretty much it come out pretty good accuracy, but the Maryland may have a different. What will be approximate percentage of sales price will be the transfer or recordation tax?
Right. So here's the link, cardinaltitlegroup.com.
They have that itemized, right?
One of the benefits that we have here working at Samson.
That's why we take courses, ask question, learn every day.
Exactly. Is there anything else I can answer for you guys? And if I miss your question, you can always call me or email me. I do appreciate questions here that I can share with everybody else. Is there anything else I can answer for you guys?
I have a question for non-contract related.
Okay.
If you use sign post installer, who are you using? Because signpost installer, if you want to have,
I don't use I have I don't list as many properties as you guys. I have like 3 signposts that I can take out and put in fairly easy.
you have an aluminum signpost you have?
I'm sorry?
Aluminum signpost?
Yeah. They look very nice, and I keep them nice. I keep them clean.
Isn't that hard to install? No?
No, not for me. I mean,
Okay, then did you make a new signs yet?
I did. They with the new logo, and they're nice black, like the ones that Sarah Mormon has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Maryland has, I just remembering long time that your name, your company, the phone number, your name, company name has to be almost equal sign. Is that the way to do it? I'm talking about only Maryland.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be the same size. No.
No?
It has to be visible. It has to be legible. The company's address, name, but it doesn't have, like, you can have your name 3 times larger if it's a larger sign, but it doesn't have to be the same. As long as it's legible and visible, you're okay.
Do you have a recommendation of who you're using? I mean, I know there's 2 on Samsung side. They're in Manassas. but is there another one that you can recommend?
I use the guys in Manassas, and it's easy because, you know, I order through them. They send it to Chantilly, then the runner brings it to my office in Bethesda. So you know, and we get very good prices, very good pricing with them, and they do custom work as well. So I haven't, you know, NVA sign works for me. So
Yeah, I did order all my signs for MBA, and then I don't ever to do the post by myself. So there's the I think a postmaster doing in, I don't know for sure, they go to Maryland, they do that. They can actually keep your sign in their warehouse. When you order, they bring out their sign, hang it up for you.
yeah, there is a company, and we have the information there in the Bethesda office.
I think that is the postmaster.
It's a different one.
Different one?
Yeah, it's a different one.
Is it in the Maryland or in the Virginia?
They're in Maryland. They're in, I want to say, Gettysburg or Rockville.
Oh wow, I have to know who they are.
Yeah, if you reach out to the to Erica Lewis, she knows exactly who they are.
Erica?
Erica Lewis, she's the admin.